If you're going to be a predator, you have to be able to hunt. Carnivores like lions, cheetahs, foxes, and coyotes have to learn somewhere. Those skills begin as play for these little hunters, yearning to grow up to be like mom and dad. The vicious, ferocious, mighty lion. These three cubs don't exactly live up to their species' reputation.
Like all cats, they're super playful when they're little. They're happy-go-lucky. They have no worries in life. They have the protection of their parent, so they're with their mother all the time. So they don't have that aggression yet. They're not serious yet.
The joys of being at the top of the food chain. When lion cubs are born, they're blind and can't even walk. Compare that to a typical prey animal like the gazelle and zebra, where babies can run as fast as adults within 24 hours of being born. But that doesn't mean that survival is easy. Far from it. The lioness has the very tough job of keeping her cubs alive. She keeps them hidden and safe in a den until they can walk and see. Eagles, leopards, and even buffalo will try and kill the cubs if they get a chance. At around 6 weeks old, their mom introduces them to the rest of the pride. She does this slowly because any new males in the pride might try and get rid of their competition's offspring. These three cubs live in a zoo, so their father didn't have to fight off other big males. But their dad, Katali, wasn't warm and fuzzy with them either.
Katali's relationship with the cubs is a little different. He's not fully embraced fatherhood yet, but he's coming around. It took him a little while to get used to these cubs. He was terrified of them. They would touch him and he would scream like they were killing him, but he's slowly getting over that, and these cubs just love him. They have no fear of them. You know, these 60-pound guys, and he's a 500-pound lion. They run headlong up to him and will throw themselves against his body, and Katali will scoop them up, and he likes to open his mouth over their belly, and you think he's trying to eat them, but he's actually playing.
In the wild, the females in the pride will synchronize births so that the cubs are born at the same time. It's not just having a friend to play with, it's another way to help them survive. Smaller cubs are usually starved out by bigger cubs. In the wild, this is when they'd venture out on their own to start a new family. The males are massive and have intimidating manes, but the female lions are the better hunters. They're smaller and slight in the hips and legs, but with extra bulk in their necks, all traits that are already popping up in this young female cub.
She's got a very strong personality. She likes to stomp right up and spit at us and growl at us, and that's exactly the personality of the two adult females we have. The two male cubs are much mellower. They like to come up and see us, but they're not as spitting and growling as the little female is, and they're more curious.
So whether it's by their parents, their siblings, or other animals, life isn't always easy for a lion cub. In the wild, they have an 80% chance of dying before they reach the age of 2. In captivity, that number is much smaller, which might be why these lion cubs aren't worried about looking tough and ferocious. They're just having too much fun. It would be a mistake to confuse these little guys for puppy dogs. They are their wild cousins, baby coyotes. Full grown, they will stand roughly a third the size of a gray wolf, and potentially just as deadly and cunning a predator.
We had 4 babies this spring, so they are growing up really quickly, and we can see already their fur is changing color.
Soon, their reddish coats will turn gray, just like their parents, the alpha male and female in the pack. Within the coyote hierarchy, only they are allowed to breed.
So it's always the best individuals that have the babies to make sure that the babies are really good new coyotes in the pack also.
The main job for the pup's mother is to feed and take care of her new litter, truly a full-time job. To make sure she keeps up her energy, the other members in the pack all pitch in.
Each member of the pack take care of her, and she's always really well fed.
And then there's the pup's father, the undisputed leader of the pack and the family.
So the role of the alpha male is similar to the role as the alpha female. He'll always take care of all the babies in the litter, and also really has the rules in the pack and really direct the pack.
But at this point, all that matters to this pup is cutting loose and having some fun.
The coyote pups are really cute and funny. They're always playing around, and we see them like running from one side of the enclosure to the other, and also playing with the full-grown coyotes. It's really life is easy and just for fun.
Very heavy on the easy. Dad is becoming less a caregiver and more of a teacher, slowly preparing them for the brutal life of a hunter.
These pups will need to learn if they were in the wild to hunt. It's quite a big thing to learn to survive well, and also to know where to find food and where to go, where to not go, and life in the forest.
Within the pack, the pups need to learn their rightful place and proper social behavior.
Sometimes the parents always need to do a little bit of discipline on their pups. They just need to learn to act correctly with the rest of the pack so that they don't get pushed away, or just make sure that they go along all together.
Once this pup learns to be a full-fledged hunter, it will primarily target small animals, which make up 90% of its diet. Its hunting grounds will range from roughly 3 square kilometers to 40 square kilometers, depending on food availability. To learn to work as a group, these pups need to learn basic communication skills. Even during playtime, their parents are teaching them how to express themselves through making noises and by using body language, tactile signals, and smells. As an adult, this pup may at some point decide to leave the safety of the pack. If it does, its chance of surviving will automatically drop by as much as 25%. But in the wild, under the care of the pack, it might live to see its 14th birthday. While other species like wolves have dropped in numbers, these pups belong to a population on the rise. While they once lived primarily in prairies and deserts, their range has expanded to forests and mountains. And now, as forests shrink, their territory continues to expand into cities. No matter where they live, these pups will do well because they will have learned from their parents how to be opportunistic and will eat just about anything. Over the next few months, these pups will learn valuable lessons to protect them from those who would do them harm, making them not only a skilled predator, but also the ultimate survivor. These baby cheetahs were born just 6 months ago. This is their mom Messa's third litter. But for whatever reason, she's abandoned these guys, refusing to take care of them.
With cheetahs, sometimes mums aren't always that great. They sometimes are lacking a bit of maternal instinct and they do actually abandon them quite often. And unfortunately, that's what happened with this litter.
In the wild, a mother who has weak or sick babies usually abandons them for a good reason.
You don't want a weak cub sort of bringing other predators towards the den. They can smell it.
But these cubs are quite healthy. All three are brothers, with very different personalities. Matata is the little troublemaker.
He definitely tries to push all the boundaries when he gets the chance.
Kanzi is the fearless explorer, always the first one out to see what's going on. He's the definite leader of the group.
The others actually rely on him quite a bit, so when they get a bit worried or scared, they turn to Kanzi and they stick with him for a bit of comfort and support.
Gorse is the affectionate one, the real sweetheart of the group.
He's very affectionate, he loves cuddles. He gets jealous if anyone else is getting too many cuddles. He comes over and tries to butt in and sit on your lap, and he's a very lovable cub.
When all three were first born, they looked very different. Their eyes were closed tight so they couldn't see. Their ears were folded back so they couldn't hear. All they had to go by was their keen sense of smell. Gradually, after a week or so, they started taking their first steps, learning how to use their tail for balance.
Watching them sort of learn how to coordinate their tail and all the feet and everything takes quite a bit of time, and it's quite funny to watch.
When they finally reach adulthood, their tail will measure as much as 80 centimeters, roughly half their total body size.
Of course, like climbing on things and then realising that the tail will actually help them balance is pretty neat to watch that little light bulb go off, and gradually they start using it a bit more.
With each new lesson learned, the cubs continue gaining confidence, which is important if you're going to be an apex predator.
So they've gone from pretty much not being able to move to what they are now, like bounding around and can run faster than what we can run and that kind of thing.
When they reach full size, these baby cheetahs will be able to run nearly 104 kilometers an hour. The secret to their speed is in their claws and their spine. The brothers were born with semi-retractable claws that they use for gripping the ground at high speed. To help propel them forward, their spine compresses and stretches like a spring. The cubs are bursting with energy. Normally at this age, their mom Messa would be teaching them how to hunt. But since she's turned her back on them, their natural instincts have kicked in, and they're learning on their own.
It's all play, but it's all preparing them for when they had to survive by themselves and hunt and catch their own food.
In the wild, Matata, Kanzi, and Gorse would feed on Thompson's gazelle and smaller prey like guinea fowl and wild rabbits.
Even chasing after a leaf, that's teaching them something, how to hone their skills, learn how to chase after things and ambush and things like that.
Amongst themselves, their play is definitely on the rough side.
Especially first thing in the morning when I first go in, they're always hurtling around the enclosure at top speed and chasing each other and tripping each other up.
Which in the wild is exactly what they do if they're chasing a baby springbok or some other choice prey. They trip it up, jump on it, and then rip out its throat.
They learn from such a young age, so that's probably the most important development stage that they're going through now, is learning how to survive, basically.
They will also soon start to sort out who is at the top of the pecking order.
Definitely, I imagine Matata's going to be at the bottom, just by what I've seen with his personality, but who knows, it might change. As they get older, the personalities always change.
In the wild, as a species, Matata, Kanzi, and Gorse would be classified as vulnerable, one step away from being endangered. Underpopulation has forced massive inbreeding.
As a result, every cheetah today is related somehow, and so if you have a lot of animals in a species related, it means that you got a lot of issues with the immune system. So pretty much a disease could just wipe out a whole population of cheetah so easily.
In the future, these three guys, or their cubs, could help keep the species alive.
It's really important to breed these species like cheetah in a captive environment because if something does happen out in the wild, which with cheetah quite feasibly occurs, a disease could knock out a whole area of cheetah and you might lose them for good. So it's really important we do have a population here that we are constantly breeding in a sustainable way. So what we're trying to do in a captive environment is to breed a group of cheetah that are really strong, robust. We're trying to outbreed that in breeding. So if something does happen, we can actually introduce cheetah back into the wild and they will actually survive.
And in the wilds of Africa, Matata, Kanzi, and Gorse would be able to tap into the vital lessons they've learned on their way to becoming the world's fastest predator. The silver fox has a fierce, independent spirit. This female, for example, has gone against Mother Nature about the right time to reproduce. Foxes aren't supposed to have babies until they're about 2, but Franny, well, she had other ideas.
Franny is the silver fox mother. She's a great mother. She didn't read the page in the book that said foxes aren't supposed to reproduce in their first year. So we were a little worried about her, this being her first litter, and she is young, but she's being a really good mom. She cares for the kids really well. They're all very healthy. She seems to mitigate any family squabbles that go down, so she's a good mom.
The female will mate with several different males, but only one gets to become her long-term partner. In this case, Franny has settled down with Frisco. Franny and Frisco are brand new parents. A silver fox litter is usually between 3 and 6 kits, but it can be as large as 14.
There are 4 silver fox kits. They're 4 weeks old. They're all brothers. They each right now weigh about a pound, 2 pounds. Their names are Fee, Fi, Fo, and Fum, all Fs. And they love playing around their enclosure. They love bugging their parents. And they're generally pretty active, but during the afternoon, they all curl up in their den and have a nice nap.
Franny and Frisco have different parenting styles. As the mother, Franny is in the trenches with her kits, breaking up fights and making sure everyone's playing nicely together. She's hands-on and very involved. She's a young mother, but she's a natural. Frisco tends to keep more to the sidelines. He's not quite as involved, but he's constantly on the lookout for any threats to his kits. In the wild, coyotes and wolves are known for snatching baby foxes. But these kits are safe here in the zoo. At this age, they're rambunctious, full of energy, and ridiculously cute.
When it's feeding time, they all pile in at once and try and get some food, so they're all tumbling all over each other and falling, and they're pretty cute to watch because they're not too coordinated yet, so they roll and they fall, and they love playing with each other, and they love trying to all get a piece of the best food, so that's pretty cute. And they also, whenever they're coming up to each other or you're trying to go into the pen to pet them and they don't want to be pet, they'll come over and they'll stamp their feet and they'll growl at you and they think they're pretty tough.
In order to hunt properly, foxes need to learn how to move quickly and stealthily. and their education starts early.
If they were in the wild right now, they would definitely be starting to learn all of their coordination skills, so quick moving, a little bit of stalking, some pouncing, stuff like that. And they would be practicing that on small insects, things that are on the ground. And of course, they would be watching everything their parents do. Small mammals and foxes especially learn a lot from their parents when they're very young. So they're going to be watching their parents, seeing what they're doing, and that's going to be a huge impact for them in terms of learning the skills they'll need later on in life.
Their sharp hearing helps them find their prey and leap directly into the air to kill it. But because they're opportunists, silver foxes can survive on whatever food is available.
Hunting doesn't just mean stalking a mouse in the grass, that means taking an egg if they can find a clutch of eggs on the ground somewhere, things like that. And fox are opportunists, so anything that they can find that will give them that edge, they'll do it.
If it can't locate any meat, the silver fox can survive on plants, worms, and bugs. When it has too much food, it will bury it in the ground for later. If they watch their parents closely and pay attention, these kits should be able to hunt on their own in about 6 months.
Generally, their mother is going to have the strongest impact on the kit's life just because she's around them the most. But both parents are very involved in the upbringing of the fox kits, so both of them will have a huge input in what they will learn and what they'll carry on through later in life and the skills they'll need.
So, with input from Mom and Dad, eventually these little silver foxes will become little hunters. These little hunters are on their way to being big hunters. In the wild, these cubs and pups will be pouncing on prey in no time. Learning the ropes from their parents and the rest of their packs, these creatures are born to hunt.
Some of the world's most amazing animals are in danger of disappearing forever. But through the efforts of zoos and conservation groups, many species, like clouded leopards, are hanging on. Some, like the southern white rhino, have even been brought back from the edge of extinction. There was quite a stir at the Newquay Zoo in Cornwall, England, when this red panda cub was about to be born. The expecting mother, Sandy, was nowhere to be seen.
She disappeared for several days and everybody had their fingers crossed. So we were just waiting for the sound, and then Owen, the keeper, came up and said, "I can hear a squeak." So it's fantastic. We want to hear the second squeak the next day to make sure, but huge excitement in the zoo as soon as we realised we had our first ever baby panda.
Even though they couldn't see what was happening, the keepers were listening. Ho, as they called the newborn cub, had finally arrived. But he was born in an unexpected place. Keepers had assumed that his mom would climb into an elevated nest box to give birth, similar to how a female in the wild would climb into a tree. That didn't happen. The weather had something to do with that.
In Europe, it can get quite warm in the middle of summer, and it's a problem for red pandas because they come from very much a colder climate. So Mum actually gave birth underground because it was cooler down there.
Ho's now 4 months old. His arrival was a big deal for many reasons. First of all, the zoo had unsuccessfully tried to breed a red panda cub for 9 years. Second, it's very difficult for red pandas to get pregnant because females are able to conceive just 1 day out of a year. Ho is also a star because red pandas are an endangered species, and he's the end result of a worldwide effort to preserve these animals. It's believed that there are only 10,000 or so red pandas left in the wild. Part of the reason for that is how rarely these animals breed. But another is that their habitat, the cool mountainous forests that stretch from the Himalayas into southern China, is being cut down. There is some good news. Red pandas in the wild are getting some help from their neighbors.
The areas where they live, certain parts of the areas where they live, they overlap with giant pandas. The conservation efforts in the wild are being concentrated in those areas.
The government of China is trying to save their national treasure, the giant panda. And because they share much of the same habitat, red pandas are being protected by default. 2 species, both threatened in the wild, both solitary, and definitely both adorable. The word panda translates to bamboo eater, which both of these animals love. Sharing the name, you'd think these 2 animals would be closely related, but they're not. Red pandas are distinctive animals in more ways than one. For centuries, biologists have debated how to classify Ho and his kind. At first, they were thought to be part of the raccoon family. Then, they were classified as part of the bear family, as giant pandas are, because of similarities in DNA. But researchers think red pandas diverged from both these animal families, and so need to be in their own category. Ho's immediate family keeps him close. His mom, Sandy, watches his every move.
The baby's just coming out of the nest box, and he's coming out. Mum will actually sometimes push him back in again. She doesn't like him coming out. She wants to keep him nice and snug and warm.
But Ho's instinct as a natural-born climber is kicking in. Pandas need to be good climbers to support their bamboo habit. But they also live in the trees, and even sleep in them. They're built for it too, with semi-retractable claws to grip branches and long tails to steady them. Ho still needs to practice climbing, though.
So he does actually come out, he does fall off the branches quite often. But he's in a learning position at the moment, how to use those claws, how to use the tail for balance.
Ho's other defense mechanisms are kicking in too, although it's hard for the zookeepers to take him too seriously.
So you couldn't invent a better cuddly toy. And he comes out and he bumbles around and he falls off the branches, but he's absolutely determined that he's a big, scary animal. It's very difficult to get away from just how cute they are. And when this baby first came out of the nest box, all the staff, and me included, I have to say, desperately want to see this baby panda because it's the cutest thing in the world. And yeah, we're hard-nosed conservationists, but at the end of the day, if you see something like that, you've got to love it. It's fabulous.
Fabulous indeed. Ho may not know he's a celebrity, but he's doing a pretty good job of living in the limelight. Like 2 debutantes, twin snow leopard cubs Malaya and Dania were introduced to the public when they reached the appropriate age. For Malaya and Dania, that was about 4 months after their birth. And like debutantes, everyone is anxious to see them. Snow leopards are an endangered species, and they're normally reclusive. So seeing one anywhere is kind of a big deal. Their birth wasn't a secret, but the zookeepers at Brookfield Zoo in Chicago, Illinois, wanted to wait before the sisters made their debut. The cubs needed time to bond with their mother, a 5-year-old cat named Serani. It was worth the wait. The youngsters are curious, extremely active, and easy on the eyes, too.
They're kind of silvery. They already have their black spots on their fur. And as they grow, they start to get fluffier. Snow leopards are really beautiful.
The twins are clearly similar, but not identical. There are ways to tell them apart.
They're 20 and 21 pounds, with Malaya being just a little bit larger than Dania.
Their personalities help to distinguish them as well.
Malaya is very confident, outgoing, exploratory, and she's kind of been that way since she was very young. And Dania is much shyer.
But both of them are testing boundaries, and both are practicing for adulthood.
These little cubs start to play at a really young age, and in playing, they learn a lot of the behaviors they need as adults. And so what we especially see from these guys is that they get low down like cats do, and they stalk something that they're treating like prey. They do this with their mom, too. They stalk her, creep up on her, pounce on her.
Fortunately, their mother seems willing to put up with their antics.
Serani is a really good mom. She's very watchful, very observant, very patient. She's always on duty.
Malaya and Dania are curious and seem to respond to the finer things, like exotic smells introduced to keep their bodies active and their minds stimulated.
We enrich them with scents and herbs. Some of the perfumes are really attractive to cats. They probably have a natural product in them, like some type of musk. And some of the perfumes, you just put them on exhibit and they immediately respond to them.
Clearly, the cubs have a strong sense of smell. Dania and Malaya's other adaptations for life in the remote and rugged mountains of Central Asia are easier to see.
Their coloration is adapted to their snowy, rocky environment as well. They're whites and grays and blacks, and they can disappear right before your eyes and be right in front of you in full view, and you may not see them.
And their legs and tail help them cope in treacherous conditions.
They have very long back legs and shorter front legs, and it allows them to negotiate very steep terrain. It allows them to leap very long distances. They can leap up to 30 feet. They can ricochet off rock faces up to 30 feet as well. And they have snowshoe-like feet, very broad, wide feet. Their tails really stand out as a unique characteristic of the species. They're nearly as long as their body, so at least a meter long, and they're very thick and fluffy.
A perfect counterbalance to their bodies while they bound around. Visitors love to watch their stunts. The zoo staff hopes that the public's appreciation for these endangered animals might one day turn into action.
The cubs being out on exhibit is a great resource for what we're up to here, because we want to inspire people to be conservation leaders, and we want to lead them towards valuing wildlife, valuing nature, and protecting it, conserving it. That's our ultimate goal.
This is Dudley Castle. Well, what remains of it. These walls once protected noble English families from attack. They're still guarding precious bloodlines. But now it's animals under protection at Dudley Zoo near Birmingham, England. The zoo is on a mission to help save endangered species, like these Sulawesi macaques. These macaques are critically endangered in the wild. They're losing their homes in the rainforests of Indonesia as trees are chopped down. 3,000 to 4,000 of them are protected on a reserve in Sulawesi, but those that range in the wild are treated like pests, or hunted for their meat. Still others are taken as pets.
The pet trade, the youngsters are quite cute, so you can imagine some people would want them as a pet. And they're kind of the main threats that are faced with the macaques.
This little family is protected at Dudley Zoo. They too have a castle and a princess. This is their little princess, Summer. She's 5 months old. She stands out in a crowd. Both her skin and eyes have yet to develop the color of the adults. Male and female adults are jet black with striking reddish-brown eyes, and their crests make them look like punk rock primates. Female macaques are much smaller than males, and Summer will grow to be almost 5 kilograms. For now, Summer's size and pale skin are a signal that she needs bodyguards.
This symbolises to dominant males of the group to be aware that the mom has a youngster on her, so if it's their offspring, they'll keep a closer eye on them. The rest of the group will also protect them in a way, and not so much aggression will be displayed towards them because they've got this youngster.
Summer doesn't want for affection and is doted on by everyone in this family. And she plays it to her advantage.
She's cheeky. She knows she's the youngest, so she'll definitely try and get what she wants. And the rest of the group know that as well, so they're kind of like, oh, you can have it.
One of the things Summer is learning to do is forage for food, even if it's only by watching Mom. Sulawesi macaques are fruit lovers, but will eat grasses, insects, birds, and here at the zoo, pellets packed with nutrients. But Summer still needs to nurse until she's about 1 year old. Her mom, Jasmine, is the center of her life, and Summer clings to her most of the time. When she lets go, it's not for long.
If you think in the world there'd be danger coming from every angle, so they need to be careful. So running back to mom is just that safety net of then mom can keep her safe and covered.
That's just fine with Mom.
Jasmine's quite a good mom. She'll give a little bit of freedom in a sense that the baby's allowed to go far, but she'll always keep a close eye on her.
Jasmine makes it clear to the group that she's in charge of Summer. Sulawesi macaques are constantly communicating and have many ways to do so. They use sound, coos and chirps and other calls. Researchers believe that the calls can mean a number of things, including stay away, and that even subtle gestures can encourage cooperation. They smack their lips, which can result in a friendly interaction between macaques in a social group. And what looks like a yawn to us might be a way of letting others in the group know who's boss. These macaques even communicate with the hair on top of their heads.
The crest on the top of their heads is more prominent in males, and it's more if they get aroused or asserting their dominance, they'll pull their crest up, and it's more of a stance towards the females or other dominant males.
Communication is essential to maintain order. Macaques work in groups. They're highly social animals that rely on other members of the group for just about everything.
You've got the dominant male who kind of patrols the group, keeps everyone in line. If it's a big group and there's multiple males, you've got males that work underneath him.
In the wild, groups can have up to 90 members. This group isn't quite that big, but like wild groups, it's mostly female.
You've got the baby, obviously, Summer. You've then got Mom, Jasmine. You've got a few aunts. You've got Poppy and Sophie as well. So it's quite a female group. You've got some youngsters in there as well.
It's a small group, but it's growing. The number of young macaques in this family shows they're thriving. And if all goes well, in a few years, Summer will help carry on the precious bloodline of Sulawesi macaques at the Dudley Zoo. It's not every day you see rhinos come to be petted, But things at the Monarto Zoo in southern Australia are a little different. It's the largest open-range zoo in the country. And even though the rhinos here roam over a large area, they still come to their keepers, especially for a little snack. When it comes to hay and attention, this little rhino eats it up. Her name is Tundu, which is Swahili for mischievous.
She's very curious of lots of different things, and she's very active, although she does have lots of times where she does sleep and rest, but you will see her charging around her exhibit quite furiously.
She's only a couple of months old and still very little, but little is a relative thing for a rhino. A newborn can weigh more than 40 kilograms. Tundu doesn't rely entirely on hay for her nutrition, and her additional supplements are paying off. Because at 2.5 months, she's already more than 90 kilograms. Heavyweight for humans, a featherweight for rhinos. Her mother, Umkali, weighs a ton.
I guess people are always impressed by their size. That's one of the main things that people say when they see the rhinos, is that they're so large, and they are. The males are around just over 2 ton.
Tundu is a southern white rhino, the largest rhino in the world, and the biggest land animal after elephants. Tundu and her family are a good news story. After a century of protecting this species, southern white rhinos have been brought back from the edge of extinction. While Tundu appears sweet and innocent, the adults are big and fierce-looking. And those horns could do some damage. They can grow to be almost 1 meter long.
There's a primary horn at the front and a little secondary horn behind that one. They use the horn for defense, for fighting. It's a tool for the rhino to use.
Equip a body this size with horns like those, and it's obvious they don't have many predators. Nobody wants to mess with them. Their biggest predator? Us. In the wild, the horns are their greatest defense, but when it comes to human poachers, they're a weakness. In Asia, a single horn can fetch up to $300,000. They're used in traditional medicine, though scientists say they have no medicinal benefits. Tundu doesn't have horns yet. Just a bump for now. But they'll grow in. She'll never have to worry about poachers here at the zoo. And thanks to strong conservation efforts, the population of wild southern white rhinos continues to grow. You may be wondering why these are called white rhinos when they look gray. It's because of their wide mouths.
It was a mispronunciation of the word wide, which came across in Afrikaans as sounding white. So it was taken as the white rhino, but actually it refers to their lips, which are wide.
Those wide mouths are like lawnmowers. White rhinos graze the African savannas and eat grass, like some domesticated animals that are more familiar to us, horses. Horses are actually their closest living cousins. They have identical digestive systems that help them break down fresh cut grass and dried hay. The rhinos at Monarto eat almost 20 kilograms a day. That's not the only thing rhinos and horses have in common. Just watch the way Tundu walks. And canters. Like a little foal, she started to run at 3 days old. They're both light on their feet. When it comes to rhinos, that surprises people.
They watch rhinos move, and I guess they think they're going to be sort of slow. They can move quite quickly when they want to.
Even rhinos' ears are shaped like horses' ears. They're cupped to capture and funnel sounds. Both rhinos and horses have ears that can pivot around like a sonar dish. They hear better than they see. But a rhino's most powerful sense is its sense of smell. So you'd think it might find a dung heap offensive. While you and I might not like the smell, it's how rhinos mark their territory. This male is spraying the dung to make it clear this patch of turf is his. Females are protective of their territory too. The females in this group kept watch over Newquay when she was giving birth to Tundu.
We had a camera system set up so we could monitor signs of labour and the birth and that sort of thing. And we came in the morning and there was a little surprise that was waiting in the boma, and that was Tundu.
Newquay's young daughter has grown by leaps and bounds, but stays by her mom's side most of the time. Mom will keep a close eye on Tundu till she's at least 3. The zoo is equally protective. With more rhinos being poached in the wild than being born, every new rhino at the zoo is cause for celebration.
We do use these guys a lot as ambassadors to educate people about the plight of white rhinos in the wild. We do even have tours where people can come in and get up close and meet the rhino and have that sort of personal experience, and that helps to educate and cement the message of the white rhino.
Tundu seems to be enjoying her role as ambassador and all the perks that come with it. The birth of a baby animal is always exciting news. But when it's a species that's endangered, it's even more precious. These babies are mini ambassadors for conservation efforts. And they're sweet reminders of the incredible diversity of life on our planet.